are several things, I've tried a lot of paint over the years, and it's always hard to find the right consistency for what I do. I like the butteriness of them. They feel like they have substance. They're not too buttery, but they're not stiff. They're perfect. And they're especially good for me nowadays that I've gone solvent-free. I had to go solvent-free because I was beginning to get sick. I would paint for 2 hours and I'd get sick on my stomach. And then when I realized it was a solvent, I tried every way around it. I tried to spike lavender oil. But that wasn't quite right. And then I finally just decided to do like Rembrandt did. He just used linseed oil and he went solvent-free. But I had to change my approach when I did that. And in that, I start out, my first layer is the paint right out of the tube without mixing any oil into it, so that subsequent layers could have more oil than the previous. And what's happened is it's a safer way to paint. But what's happened is that the Michael Harding paints allow me to use the paint out of the tube because there's a perfect consistency as is. Even the painting today, I never dipped it into the oil except to clean my brushes in between strokes. Some of the other colors I can't do that with. Some of the other paint companies I can't do that with. There are the other thing is, there are some other companies that allow that, but a lot of them have fillers and and the pigment's not as rich. Michael Harding, the pigments are really rich, and that's mainly the reason I use Michael Harding. I came to them by accident. I needed ultramarine blue, and I went to buy them, and the only ultramarine blue that the store was not stocked was Michael Harding. And so I picked it up. I'd never used it before, and I'd heard a lot about the colors. And I used it, and I loved it. It was so rich, it made my other colors feel, like I'm painting with toothpaste, or something. That's basically the reason. I did bring them in one by one because I'm a cheapskate. So as my paints, from the previous paints that I had, I used to use the M. Graham paints. Those are a little bit too soft, but as I finished each color, when I replaced it with a Michael Harding color. I was also going through a period where I was really experimenting with my palette. I still am, I'm always trying new colors, new palette combinations. Right now, I think my palette may have, I'm trying to cut down the colors, the chroma might be a little bit too high. So I'm using all bright colors and mixing all my grays. And I like it, but I think I have to get something in between, so I need to bring back raw umber and black maybe. But yeah, that was basically it. After I used the alizarin crimson, the next color that disappeared from my palette that finished was cadmium red, and so then I used cadmium red, and that was wonderful. It was very rich. But my favorite thing, so after the cadmium red, around the time that happened, I had already stopped using alizarin crimson, which was, PR83, right, which is not light fast. Right? So I had already started trying to find an alizarin crimson substitute. And I couldn't find, I couldn't find anything that was adequate. Either they were too muddy, or they didn't have the right transparency. And then I tried Michael Harding's magenta. So that was my third color. And I'm so hooked on magenta. It's cooler than the Alizarin Crimson, but it's higher in chroma. And it's just as transparent. And it's beautiful when you mix it with yellows and oranges. And it's a beautiful color for making skin tones. That was my third color. And now I'm at the point where all of my colors are Michael Harding. Well, that's a funny question because I could probably do without it, but I don't want to do without it, is magenta, Michael Harding magenta. And it's just such a wonderful color. It's so versatile. It plays nice with all the other colors. It allows you to make something very dark. It allows you can glaze with it. It's one of the most on a bizarre turn. If you mix it with yellow, it makes a sort of beautiful bloody red, which I would have never guessed that. And it's wonderful in skin tones. I think that's my favorite color.